In this update, we've got a series of storm systems over the next couple of days, packing very high winds with intense heat really starting to build across the country. Plus, we have a hurricane to talk about with a tropical update and what may be coming down the line. Welcome back, everyone. Appreciate all the happy anniversary wishes out there. Hope everyone enjoyed their July 4th. I took the day off yesterday, enjoyed time with the family, and we went out last night and saw some fireworks, and we got some fireworks to talk about this morning in the form of a lot of storms going to be happening across the board today. So this is your Tuesday update. We've got a 2,000-mile swath of severe weather. You can actually see we've got a slight risk for storms all the way into Billings, Montana, back into Dickinson, all the way through Rapid City. They could be a little bit more intense with these mesoscale convective systems that we'll be talking about in Pierre, into Sioux City, into Omaha, all the way through Cedar Rapids, going into Madison. That'll swing through Chicago, back into Fort Wayne, into Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Charleston, Pittsburgh. It just goes all the way to the coast, guys, all the way to Virginia Beach. So we got a huge swath of storms to talk about. But the main impact today is going to be your very intense high winds where you see this black hatch risk. That's talking about some pretty significant winds, upwards to 75 miles an hour. That's hurricane force wind gusts, guys. That's nothing to play with. Back into Billings, back into Rapid City, into Pierre, into Sioux City, into Omaha. This fishtails all the way through your slight and enhanced risk. So we're talking about you need to secure your trampolines, your loose items, anything that you don't want to be having flying projectile debris, or will go pick up your trampoline 5 doors down. You need to secure them now. And I'd wait to, if you do have trash a day, I would wait to push your trash cans out until the morning, because this is gonna looks to be an all-night affair in some of these areas as well. So don't really expect a restful night's sleep up here as we look to have some pretty intense storms. And that train of storms just continues into the day for tomorrow through your Wednesday. So yet we have another slight risk and a 2,000-mile trek of severe activity just on the north side of that ridge. So Great Falls again, back into Rapid City, back into Pierre, Omaha, all the way through Chicago again, Indianapolis, Louisville, and to Charleston. It might swing a little bit further south. Now we're talking south of Virginia Beach, into Greensboro, and to Charlotte. So those areas are going to be on high alert as you get into Wednesday. And it doesn't really stop there, guys. We have another 2,000-mile track into Thursday. So you can see we've got these series of storm complexes, more storms blowing up into Montana, traveling east, southeast, traversing across that northwest flow, just on the north side of that ridge. They call them ridge riders, and they're going to be in full effect with that ring of fire pattern really starting to take shape on a good chunk of the country. On the northern branch, you're going to be in the line of fire with those storms. So they're going to be impacting all the same areas really for the next several days to come. So let's just break this down as far as the heat, because that's going to be another concern for a good chunk of the country. All these areas into orange, that is your heat advisory. That's talking 105 heat index. And where you see those areas in kind of purple here, that's 110 degrees, folks. That's some dangerous stuff. So if you do have to work outside, please take plenty of breaks. Just use extra precaution. Those time frames between 10 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon are gonna be brutal with heat indexes well into the triple digits. And look, I mean, I think over time we do have like a little easterly wave that forms, and all this is going to be expanding and increase the heat index and the excessive heat advisories, unfortunately, as this moves and it just expands throughout the week. So I expect much of this area really going to be impacted with those heat advisories and excessive heat warnings. While we do have some storms this morning into portions of Montana, get into the Dakotas, where they do have a severe thunderstorm watch happening right now, and those storms will be the start of what's to come later on this afternoon. So let's kind of take it out until about 7 o'clock tonight. So this will kind of give you an idea what the radar could look like about 7 o'clock. You've got all that just dominating ridge of high pressure over much of the central and southern U.S. Just on the northern branch of that, there's you got your ridge rider effect. So we're going to have series of convective complexes blowing up in the heat of the day, and they're going to be traveling just on the north side of this branch. So by 7 o'clock, we could be looking at some pretty intense stuff breaking out into portions of, the Dakotas here. That'll swing across into portions of Illinois, just kind of sporadic activity. But I do think this actually picks up, unfortunately, as we get deeper to the nighttime time frame. This is about 2 o'clock. Like I mentioned, don't expect a good night's sleep up here, because this is 2 o'clock in the morning, and we're talking hurricane force wind gusts could be pounding your windows into portions of Nebraska, getting into Iowa, through Illinois. I think Chicago gets impacted by then, and especially heading towards Indiana, going through Ohio. That'll reach portions of West Virginia. So yeah, these storms are going to be packing a punch for sure, and it doesn't end there, guys. So as you don't get a good night's sleep, as you take the drive to tomorrow morning on your way to work, you still got a lot of storm complexes to be dealing with. So do allow extra time to get to work for tomorrow morning up here into portions of Iowa, getting into portions of Missouri, getting into Illinois, through Indiana, through Ohio. And that'll be a bumpy morning into West Virginia and even parts of Pennsylvania by then, as those storm complexes will be overhead. But it doesn't end there. Like I told you, there's that 2,000 mile trek. So as again, we stop the clock about 6 o'clock for Wednesday. There it is. As you get off work again, you got sporadic activity really starting to bubble up. These are discrete supercells. It could be pretty intense hail producers as well. Very high winds as these really start to travel across that northern branch. So more storms could be impacting a lot of the same areas into Ohio and to West Virginia, but they could be a little bit further south by now, getting into portions of Virginia, especially along the coast into Virginia Beach. But this is my main concern with this system, because it's not a tornadic threat. It is a very large hail threat as well, but it's the intense winds. I mean, we're talking 70, 80, 90 miles an hour. So when you took a look at some of these shorter range convection guidance, and you see these little ribs kind of pop up, that's an indicative of these storms could develop these mesoscale convective systems and then really start to intensify. And as they bow out, we're talking they're going to be moving about 50, 60, 70 miles an hour. That's how fast these things are going to be moving. Plus compounding with those 60, 70, upwards to 80 mile per hour wind gusts, and even those 90 mile per hour. I mean, it actually tops out about 91 here. So that's, even 90 is not out of the question. If these cells tend to bow out, which I really think they will, it's going to be a bumpy night up here and up in this neck of the woods. And this whole boundary here over the next 48 hours is going to be under the gun for those really intense winds. But hey, what's this in the Pacific? We got Bonnie. That is Bonnie really starting to make a name for herself. It's 105 miles an hour. And we're like, I see you, Bonnie, because you got a big old eye on yourself. And that's trying to form into a major hurricane. We're not that far away. We're only 10 miles an hour. It still has very, very conducive environment to work with. So yeah, it's not out of the question that this yet could be another major hurricane out there. This could be Bonnie itself. What's impressive about Bonnie, this was like a little tropical wave that came off the coast of Africa about 2 weeks ago. It had to traverse across the Atlantic, through the Caribbean, all the close to land, bumped all the flooding rains into Central America, had to cross over in the Pacific. There's only been 5 storms that's actually crossed over in July since 1950. So Bonnie's had a major road to overcome. And then now the good thing is she's out in the middle of nowhere, and she's out in the open waters. And that's typically where you want to see these storms, not really affecting anything. But it's a pretty impressive satellite this morning for Bonnie. But hey, that's on the Pacific. What's happening on the Atlantic side? Well, El Zippo, nothing. We got the next 5 days from the National Hurricane Center, not really expecting any tropical activity. So that is a good thing. So if you do value my content, go ahead and hit the like button and the notification bell. And also, if you hadn't subscribed already, it's free to do so. Just hit the subscribe button, click that notification bell. You'll get all my daily updates and all these breakdowns that I do to keep you well ahead of the storm system. But what's after 5 days? Nothing. El Zippo for the next 10 days. It's July, it's hurricane season, and we got nothing cooking in the tropics for the next 10 days, which is a good thing. So just because it's calm now doesn't mean it's going to be calm for the rest of the season, because you know what happens when it's calm? Things start to be cooking when it starts to get active, and we'll be here on this channel to keep you well ahead of the storm, but nothing to be concerned about in the tropics at this or in the foreseeable future. But closer to home, it's all about the heat, folks. Man, if it's not storms, it's the heat. And by Friday, woo! I mean, I don't know. I mean, we got widespread triple digits and widespread heat advisories, widespread excessive heat warnings. I know it's July and it's supposed to be hot, but come on now. I mean, this is like going to be some intense stuff that's going to be building across the deep south as that ridge of high pressure just really starts to expand and really starts to dominate by then, with a huge swath of triple digits. And going into the weekend, there's really not much relief in sight with this huge ridge of high pressure. We could be maxing out by then, but hey, there's signs. There are subtle signs at the end of the tunnel that we got a little coolness trying to reach into the northeast, trying to have what they call these one of these little backdoor fronts, trying to sneak into the atmosphere and help maybe break the cycle. I mean, we're trying. So going into the weekend, I mean, you know, you got crazy stuff happening, right? I mean, 108, this the warmest temperatures, the hottest temperatures seen in many years in Dallas. So you've seen some intense summers, but it's just not, you know, there's no rain. I mean, it's been 32 days, guys, since there's not a drop of rain in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and there's not much rain to speak of really for the next 10. So we're getting into top 10 type criteria as far as lack of rainfall, and this is going to be climbing up because this heat is really just going to be baking, and I think it really starts to intensify as we head into the weekend. But it's not just Texas anymore. It's Oklahoma. It's much of the central U.S. and even Colorado. I mean, it's rare to see Colorado getting into the triple digit, but it can happen, and I think it will happen going into your weekend time frame as that ridge of high pressure just swings all the way north. I mean, we got upper 90s in Wyoming by then, and we could be pushing triple digits, and even the West starts to creep in with some of the some of the higher temperatures, and I think that will build over time because I do see this subtle shift in the ridge. Now let's take a look, go up a little bit higher up, and take a look at the 850s. This is about 5,000 feet up in the atmosphere as far as the temperatures. That just kind of gives you subtle hints what's happening up top and what could be happening at the surface. Yeah, we could be looking at a little cold front, a little coolness happening in the midsection of the country. That could be a change in the weather pattern a little bit. I mean, a little bit. I know we're kind of grasping at straws here, but yeah, this could be subtle signs of a little coolness trying to sneak into the midsection of the country, kind of break that cycle of all that severe threat you're going to be dealing with over the next couple of days, as the dominating heat ridge will just shift a little bit further off into the west. So now that puts areas off into the west with those well above average temperatures by then. So they can take a look at the surface. You can actually see those below average anomalies. Yeah, the ridge tries to break down in Texas, tries to break down in Oklahoma. We do see a little bit of a change here. So it might not be 108, it could be 100, but I still think it's going to be hot as the above average temperature swings further west. So Idaho, Washington, Oregon. I mean, we're not talking triple digits or anything like that, but hey, we're talking at least back into the possibly the 80s and 90s up here. And yeah, you could be sneaking into 100 in parts of Idaho here, but hey, we got coolness on the way as a pattern shift could be taking place, but that's over a week away, guys. I mean, that's a long ways out. We got a lot of heat, a lot of storms to contend with between now and then. But look at the drought. I mean, this updates every Thursday, so this is the latest update from the drought monitor, and we need some serious help out here off to the west. I mean, you know, we've seen some help lately into the monsoonal flow. That's actually helped the drought, and I think that will continue. But much of Texas is just getting drier and drier and drier. And then where we do need the rain, unfortunately, we're really not going to be getting much, because here's the latest 10-day overall precipitation. Really, with the ridge trying to break down, it still really doesn't form into any type of any type of precipitation to speak of in much of Texas and Oklahoma, well off the west. I mean, there's the monsoonal flow. Where you do have the active weather is just to the north side of that ridge. So this is a lot of the areas in the upper Midwest, the upper Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, back into the Northeast, where they do going to be experiencing some of that cooler conditions. And then you just have that tropical flow. So yeah, these areas are probably going to be under a heat advisory, even some excessive heat warnings, with well above average heat indexes, because the air mass is going to be pretty soupy, and that's going to allow you to have some bubble up storms and so the heat of the afternoon, and they'll pulse back down. So you can see we've got some rains over the next 10 days for a good chunk of the southeast as well. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate all my channel members out there. Huge shout out to all them for joining the channel and being a member of this channel. If you do want to be a member of the channel, hit the join button in the link in the description below. If you did like this video, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and notification bell, and I'll see you in the next video.